think this is long overdue, but I'm going to be making 2 videos talking about my seasonal employee working at Target. And keep in mind that each Target's going to be different. You're going to have different management, different team leads, different types of employees. So my experience at my particular Target is going to obviously be different at a different Target. And so I'm going to be using a little analogy to kind of describe my experience as a Target Flow team member. And I'll be talking about my experience working the sales floor and cashiering in a different video. But for this video, I'm going to be using an analogy to really describe the experience of what it was like working as a logistics flow team member. So I don't know how many of you out there have seen this sport where you slide down this really icy track at really high speeds, and you either have 2 or 4-man teams, and they kind of like get inside this like sled type gadget. The sport that I'm referring to is called the sport of bobsled, or some people call it bobsleigh. Well, that's exactly what it felt like when I went to work each and every day as a flow team member. It basically felt like I was getting ready to do some bobsledding. So what is that? Okay, to really make sense of this, here's how it starts. Here's how it is. Obviously, in a bobsled run, the athletes are sprinting as hard as they can right from the very start. I mean, they're going all out, 100%, because the starts pretty much can determine who wins and loses a race. So they're giving it everything they've got. And then, of course, they all find their positions, within the sled, sit down and lower that lever or whatever it is. And then, of course, they just pick up speed pretty quickly as they go down the track. So here it is. Okay, so at my particular store, as a flow team member, the shift was typically 4 hours, but during the holiday period, sometimes it could work as long as like 6 hours or even more if they asked you to stay late. But typically, it was a 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. shift. Yeah, pretty early in the morning. However, most of the time, team members would show up about 10, 15 minutes before their shift because you wanted to make sure that you got your walkie-talkie, your scanner, and then, of course, a box cutter. This will just simulate the box cutter. But let me tell you, it became very crucial that you knew how to manage this box cutter ninja style, in opening those packages. Because otherwise, you would probably be getting a tongue licking from one of your team leads saying that your pace was not quick enough. So here's how it is. Okay, so show up to work 10, 15 minutes early, get all your necessary equipment. Then you would punch in at 5 minutes before your shift, and everyone would be assigned a certain area in the back room. So in the back room, obviously, you have the truck, the gate where the truck has all the merchandise. So 2 people are going to be helping to unload the truck, and then you have like this big belt, like this freight belt, which people that are unloading a truck are going to be placing these packages onto this belt. And along this belt, you have like 6 or 7 pallets. And each pallet, there's going to be 7 people. Some pallets will have 2 people. But each pallet, the people assigned to these certain pallets are looking for certain packages. And there'll be like a number on the box. And like the first pallet will be like for like dog food and pet supplies. The next one over will be for like shampoos, cosmetics, and then there'll be like another pallet for like household supplies, and then another pallet for like household furniture or like curtains, drapes, and then the next one down will be toys, and then there'll be another one for like sporting goods, and then at the very end will be like grocery items. And so you're assigned to these pallets, and as soon as that 4 a.m. starts, the team leads want that truck unloaded within a half hour. And there could be as much as 1,800 packages for a truckload. And you're basically having to unload so quickly that a lot of people were exercising really bad form. They're just like, throwing boxes, like on a freight, and then just putting them on the pallets. But it was all about speed. Just like in the sport of bobsled, it's all about that speed. The team members it was all about, demonstrating that you had speed and had a very fast pace at work. So here you are, you're either unloading a truck or you're on one of these pallets, and you're making sure that when you're putting the packages onto the pallet, not only did you have to place them on the pallet in a certain way, but you have to make sure that you knew how to place like certain size objects in the correct manner. So it was like, it's pretty stressful, especially because we don't really get that much training as a seasonal team employee. So it's kind of like, I can't think of the job right now, but okay. So if you're on one of these pallets, you're basically like on the freight. So here's like, here's the freight. You're basically like, and another package. I might make sure the number matches. And I mean, it's like you are literally breaking a sweat that first half hour. I mean, it is so fast-paced. I don't care how fit you are, what kind of shape you're in, you will be breaking a sweat. I was breaking a sweat. I was like drenched. I mean, you basically had to have a water bottle with you. I mean, that's how intense it was. I mean, you basically were needing to have a water bottle with you. And so I've got to get this off my chest. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard this phrase, picking up the pace. And so the last time I ever had someone to tell me to pick up the pace while at work, I was like 20 years old. Yeah, around 20 years old. I was working as a dishwasher at a really fancy restaurant at a golf club. And the head chef was like, Donnelly, I'm going to have to ask you to pick up the pace. And so after all these years, I was like 20. Here I am, 43, 23 years later. Those words were uttered again. But it wasn't necessarily directly at me. It was just, the guy that I was helping to unload the truck was like, we're going to have to pick up the pace. And then 5 minutes later, we're scrambling. He's like, we're going to have to pick up the pace. And I knew as soon as he opened his mouth, I knew he was going to say something because, it's like, I'm fairly new at this. I'm coming from the sales floor. Sales floor places a lot slower. And so I had the feeling I was going to be saying like, something along that lines of picking up the pace. But I thought for sure, for some reason, I thought he was going to be like, Donnelly, you're going to have to pick up the pace. Okay, so here, you're either unloading a truck or you're putting things onto these pallets, and you have people that are taking these pallets on out to the sales floor, because obviously you can only fit so much packaging onto each pallet. So once a pallet's full, it would be taken out by a forklift and then taken out to the sales floor, and then there'd be another pallet for you to fill up. So basically, once the truck was unloaded and all the pallets were stacked with merchandise, then you had to do what's called bowling the merchandise. And bowling, they also wanted you to do that at a very quick pace. You'd have like anywhere between like 150, 250 packages on a pallet. And they wanted you to do that in like 5 to 10 minutes. So what exactly is bowling? Well, imagine that this is like your package that you're taking off your pallet. This is basically how it works. Okay, you got your pallet. This is how it works. That's what they refer to as bowling the merchandise. And a lot of things actually got broken inside, and then there would be spills, like especially if it's like shampoo or an item with liquid. So that first 30 to 40 minutes of the job perfectly simulates what it was like, or what it would be like to be a bobsled athlete during those first like few seconds of a race. You're sprinting as hard as you can. I mean, like, it's like completely anaerobic. It's like it felt like the first 30 to 40 minutes of this job was almost like anaerobic. But then, of course, you've got everything bowled out on the sales floor. Now you're ready to start the stocking part. Now you've gotten inside the sled, and now you're pretty much just going for the ride. But you got to keep that pace high because they want you to average through the remainder of your shift. Opening up the packages and stocking the items within each package. They want you to average 60 to 65 packages per hour. Pretty much the same exact average speed that a winning bobsled run is going to average, about 60 to 65 miles per hour overall average speed. And so how it works is, at the very beginning, everyone's like towards the front of the store, and a lot of these packages have a lot of items in them because they're really small pieces of merchandise. So you're going to be, you're going to be spending like 2 to 4 minutes in some of these packages. So you're going to be averaging like maybe 15, 30 packages an hour. just like at the very beginning of a bobsled run, you're going to be averaging 15, 30 miles per hour. And then like the first, if you were watching the Olympic Games, you'll see like the first speed check was like 35, 36 miles per hour. But that's kind of like the same pace of that you were pushing this merchandise. It was like once you got midway down the front end, you were pushing 35, 36, maybe 40 packages per hour. And then you got to just make sure that you're keeping up that pace, because once you get done with the front end, then you kind of wrap over into like household supplies and furniture, some of the bigger items, and now you're starting to push 50, 60, 65 packages per hour, just like in a bobsled run. Now you're quickly picking up speed. You're going into those corners at 60, 65 miles per hour, feeling those G-forces, just like with this job. Now you're into that furniture section where you've got heavy items and you're still expected to push those at a fast pace. It's like, it's like taking those G-forces in a bobsled run at 65, even 70 miles per hour. So now you've gone through furniture. Now you're going towards the back end. You're like in the last hour of your shift. Everyone wants to get out of there really quick. You're just like, with your box cutter ninja style. And then you've only got like maybe four pieces of merchandise in each package. So now you're moving at like 80, 90, maybe even 100 packages per hour. And some of these items are really bulky, and then at the very end, it was infants, and you just got single packages, but some of them are pretty heavy. But I mean, you are exerting yourself almost to where it felt like you were experiencing the G-forces at the end of a bobsleigh run, pushing 85, 90 plus miles an hour into those final curves and feeling that 5 G-forces, but maybe no G-forces while working at Target, but when you're trying to push like those packages, that one little package that's that big, trying to use extra, good form, and you've been doing this for 3 hours, it's gonna feel like you have just completed a bobsled run. So when you were done with your shift, it was like, you could almost say it felt like finishing a bobsled run, because you were just like, and then the team lead would be like, you are free to take off. So that pretty much sums up my experience of what it was like working as a float team member. It's very comparable to this. I could almost say to myself, man, if someone were to ask me, what am I doing tomorrow morning? I would be like, yeah, I've got to go to work. But I could almost say like, yeah, I have to go do some bobsledding tomorrow morning. I've got to do some bobsleighing tomorrow morning. It's not really bobsleighing, but the pace is pretty much the same. I mean, we're not talking miles per hour here, but in terms of like work, we're talking packages per hour. But when you compare the two, it pretty much matches, equally. So at the end of the shift, pushing 80, 90 plus packages per hour. At the end of a bobsled run, you're pushing 80, 90 plus miles an hour. Feeling those G-forces, just like working at Target. You're trying to lift those heavier objects. It's like you're exerting more strength. So that's how it is. So for all of you out there, you never know. Each target's going to be different. But if you want to experience what it's like competing in the Winter Olympic Games in the sport of bobsled, just apply to your local Target, and you too can experience that pace, that high pace work environment. And one thing to keep in mind, if you want to make, I was a seasonal employee, but if you get hired on as a regular employee, make sure you try to avoid hearing these words. Whatever your name is, you want to just make sure you don't hear this phrase. I'm going to have to ask you to pick up the pace. So, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed my video on my experience working at Target, using a little analogy, comparing it to that of a bobsled run. And in a future video, I'll talk about my sales floor experience. And that was definitely a much more cush job than working as a float team member. Thank you all for watching. Peace out, everyone.